Now, I want to welcome to the program right now Congresswoman Diane Black, Republican from Tennessee. Congresswoman, thank you so much for coming on the program today. It's a real pleasure talking with you.
Well, it's my pleasure. I'm glad to be with you today.
I'm glad to have you. All right, so I saw a statement from you yesterday talking about President Obama's executive action on firearms. You say he has contempt for the Second Amendment. You called this a childish temper tantrum. Care to elaborate, Congresswoman?
Well, I do, and I think that the president, having been out there talking about how he's a constitutional professor, should know that this is not the way to change the law if that were really what he wanted to do. But we know that he's made a promise, and his campaign promises, and he sees this coming to the end of the line. He can't get these laws changed by Congress because they still believe we do have a Second Amendment right, and we don't take that away from people. So he's decided to do this by an executive action. And I don't think that this is the way the president should be doing things, especially when he says he is a constitutional authority, and he should know that that's not the way you change the law.
There have been lots of folks, including the Associated Press, say that none of the president's executive actions would have prevented any of these mass shootings that he talked about and referenced yesterday. Glenn Kessler of the Washington Post noted the president was wrong when he stated that the rules are different for internet gun sales. Is there any part of the executive actions that we saw yesterday that concern you more than others? The provision dealing with Social Security Administration recipients who have a designated payee. For instance, there's apparently a public comment period or a rule being devised that would say that those individuals who have that designated payee would be reported to NICS as apparently mentally defective.
And that is so wrong, because we know that people that have someone that is helping to take care of them and their estate are not necessarily people that have mental illnesses or any reason why they should not continue to have the right to bear an arm. It can be for other reasons that someone would be having someone. Let's just say that someone may have a mobility issue, that they just can't get to the bank, and so they have someone who can sign those papers for them while they're at the bank. So this is just wrong to do a blanket statement that people that may have someone helping them with their personal issues at their home, that would prevent them from having a concealed weapon. If I were at home and had a immobility issue, I would certainly want to have my gun there. I am, by the way, someone who does have a gun at my home. I have a carry permit, and I would want to be safe and secure, and I wouldn't want anybody to take that away from me, especially if I had an immobility problem. So this, again, is just the president going out there. I think part of this, too, is that he's pivoting away from things that he should be doing, like our concern about ISIS and our national security, and doing something that he thinks is going to have the American people on his side because it's an emotional issue.
Talking again with Congresswoman Diane Black of Tennessee. And Congresswoman, to that end, the president himself said yesterday, look, this isn't some plot to take away your guns, right? But we've also had in recent weeks the New York Times first front page editorial in 95 years saying that we need to drastically reduce the number of guns in this country, quote, eliminating some large categories of weapons and ammunition.
Yeah, we need to take them away from the criminals. That's where the problem is. The problem is not with people who are law-abiding citizens. We need to take them away from the criminals, and if he would do something that would be in coordination with our law enforcement to help to decrease the number of guns, again, in the hands of criminals, that would make sense. I'd be all for that. As a matter of fact, I was in a meeting today that talked about him reducing, and it was Eric Holder that reduced the program that was the Safe Neighborhoods. It was actually working and showed a reduction in crime, especially in those high crime areas like Chicago. Mm-hmm. And it was his administration that destroyed that. Let's go after the people that really shouldn't have the guns and not let this ruse of, well, we've got to do all these other things, which, by the way, are, as you have already referenced, are not even accurate. But again, this president is not serious about the issue of getting guns off of the streets of people who shouldn't have them. This is an assault on our Second Amendment right, and we've got to do everything we can to reverse his executive actions.
Well, Congresswoman, listen, I appreciate you joining us on the program today. It is a pleasure talking with you, and I hope we get to do it again soon.
Well, thank you always. It's my pleasure to be with you.
Thank you. Congresswoman Diane Black from Tennessee.